This week, our hero Gringo Loco is picking up the pieces after the San Francisco earthquake. And then I think we're going to start to see a bit of a tailspin. This is the beginning of what is kind of the downward spiral of his story. There's still some high times, even when he finds himself in jail with a rock star. And then it just gets tougher and tougher. There's always some highs, but the lows are getting lower. He's not ready to hit rock bottom yet, but there definitely is some challenges as he finds himself in and out of prison, in and out of different homes, and just keeping the hustle life alive. So enjoy this week's true story, our story about the Gringo Loco.
I went home walking to Los Altos. Everything in disarray. The Bay Area, a mess, as I remember, in 1989 during the earthquake. The World Series San Francisco Giants versus the Oakland A's, the Battle of the Bay. The Bay Bridge had collapsed, San Francisco on fire, streets uprisen from the ground. This earthquake affected a lot of people, as it did me. Finally arriving home, I saw that it was still standing. The neighbors not so lucky. The house had crumbled to the ground. My place was turned upside down. A complete mess. Everything had fallen over. I picked up the refrigerator that had fallen on its side, put it back upright, and took out the milk, then looked for the cereal. Picking up the chairs, table, and the TV, I thought I would watch the World Series, obviously canceled. I watched the news showing all the disasters, scenes from Oakland, San Francisco, Marin County, the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, etc., all badly affected by the earthquake. I was eating my cereal when my mom came walking in and yelling at me, "How can you eat at a time like this? The house is a mess. Let's clean it up." I cleaned up the house for hours with my mom until it was almost midnight. Everything had to be clean and in order before we went to bed. That's the way it had to be. Those were the rules underneath this roof. Rules and regulations. I grew up with this mentality and still live with it today. Finally, it was time to go to bed, close my eyes, and make it all go away. I love sleep. It's underrated. California, it goes hand in hand with earthquakes. It's the price we pay to live here. To me, it's rock and roll, like a roller coaster. I'm just along for the ride. After time and reconstruction, the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, and the surrounding areas, things got back to normal. We found ourselves doing the countdown for New Year's. 1989, goodbye 80s, and 1990, hello to the 90s. This was a big moment that impacted the world in so many ways. 1990 is upon me. I felt that I wanted my freedom to live on my own. Telling my mom that my bro, good friend Dean, and myself were going to rent an apartment in Mountain View, California, only minutes from where we were living in Los Altos. All agreeing on this, we made it happen. Living all together was so cool in our 3-bedroom townhouse. having the freedom to do what we wanted, made it that much easier to fall back on my old tricks. The clients pressured me for product, and it was an easy paycheck. I had to pay the rent. My client list had grown, as did I, back in the game. I was now the man. Dean had become not only my roommate, but my bodyguard. The demand was incredible, not only here in Silicon Valley, but the whole Bay Area. Things were moving so fast. The 90s just starting. Meth was all the rave. It was the preferred substance. Everyone was on the move. Music was faster. Work, people, life was winded up like a watch. Sleep was overrated. Who needed it? Let's keep busy. The Hells Angels dominating California. Glass had made quite a name for itself. Everyone wanted a piece of what looked to be like ice cubes of joy. Just a little bit, and no one would sleep for days. Doing business with green, white, and glass was 24/7, like OXO and 7-Eleven. We were always open for business. We found ourselves going to Mountain View, Los Altos, Palo Alto, Santa Clara, San Jose, San Francisco, Marin County, Sonoma County, even Napa Valley. This was life, always on the move. Rock and roll concerts on the weekends. If not, I would go with Dean to the discos in Santa Clara and San Jose. We would cruise my 1969 El Camino Real on the Strip, which had the same name. The biggest street was named El Camino Real. It was fashion at the time to drive, cruise up and down this part of town between Santa Clara and San Jose. Mostly low riders. The Mexicans dominated this area in the 90s. It was their turf. My friend Dean would take me to all the hot spots, the discos. Amazing. So different from the rock and roll. Life was good. Time passed so fast. My bro had a girlfriend, rich bitch. Her mom, like mine, was a real estate agent. Anyway, she had sold a house to Joe Montana, quarterback to the San Francisco 49ers. The house had been contracted for many improvements. The contractor had fallen short of money to complete the job, and I found myself doing the biggest deal of my life in Joe Montana's basement. He, of course, not there and not having any knowledge of this, not even living in the house yet, because it was still under construction. So here I am in Redwood City exchanging kilos in a black briefcase for another filled with money. I remember the few of us in that basement and the contractor so nervous. I told him to relax. It's just like buying a big bag of chips. Take it easy. We all did that and went on our way. It got to the point that if you didn't want a key, don't even talk to me. Going to the rock and roll shows, discos, parties, clubs, houses, apartments, etc. We were always on the move. We found ourselves doing the same moving from city to city. Always a different house each year to keep anyone knowing from where we lived. We tried to keep it fresh each year. I found myself living in Larkspur, Twin Cities, living and working the only small store in the town. This store was owned by an Iranian from Iran. The only bar was in front. He lived above it. I lived next door. He and I ran this town in so many ways. I worked in the store only to party half the time in the back. He had a huge storage area with chairs, tables, a TV, music, etc. It was a cool place to relax. Everyone in the town would party back there. The owner was later found out to be an ex-terrorist living here in disguise, with not only disrupting more than just food in and out of his store. He was distributing much more than that. But later arrested for partying, distribution, terrorism, and associating with young girls. He made the front page of the newspaper. I was only an employee at the store and had no knowledge of any funny business that was going on. I never saw him with any young girls. Avoiding the publicity and remaining out of the spotlight. I had done so well to do so for so many years, to be invisible, and now this. I went with my bro to live close to Oakland, a little town on the other side of Marin County, across the Richmond Bridge. The smallest of the three Oakland, the Golden Gate, Richmond, was completely different. 9 out of 10 people were black. We were the only white people living there. My bro and I had grown up this way, more or less, from childhood, going an almost all-black church during the 1970s and 80s, Glide Memorial Church in San Francisco with the Reverend Cecil Williams. We were not racist in any way, actually fighting for equality alongside our mom in the 1970s and 80s, only to find ourselves living together in a newly constructed townhouse in Richmond, California. Drive-by shootings, Crips, Bloods, this was a way of life. Nobody would even think to look for us here. It was a perfect hideout. We loved our new place, and so did the people that were brave enough to come over and visit. We had some of the biggest bands in the world party with us here. We told them, here, you're just another crazy white boy. Nobody will know who you are. In our place, we had an arcade, pinball machines, pool tables, darts, video games, Pac-Man, Galaxian, Centipede, for example. Ping pong tables, putt-putt golf course, a full garage for cars and motorcycles, snap-on tools, a big tool chest with all the best. Lots of beautiful big bedrooms for people to stay days at a time. Not that people slept much here. We were always tweaking days at a time. My bro, being the big rock star that he was, had opened up for Motorhead again, one of the best bands ever. Like a few times before, after the show, we would all come back to Oakland, because here, the biggest rock stars only look like another crazy-ass white boy, just for being there. The bands would leave shortly after, but Dirty Phil would always stay behind, days at a time. This place was filled all the time. with the Mexican cartel, the Italian mafia, the Hells Angels, rock and roll bands. But everyone looked the same. Blue jeans, t-shirts. No conversation about who was who. Just friends hanging out. All of us teenagers were in our mid-20s. The 1990s just starting. Such a drastic change from the 1980s. The world was going a lot faster, picking up the pace, gotta keep busy, always on the go. I have to see somebody, do something. I got people to see and things to do. People came and went in Oakland. It was a place where everyone could relax, depending on your point of view and where you lived in Oaktown. I lived where nobody really wanted to live, but the place was brand new, just built, clean 3-story townhouse with a huge garage and basement. We made it so Hollywood, and the rent was so cheap, you couldn't beat it with a stick. It was worth it. Once you got used to the drive-by shootings, bullets flying through your living room, kitchen, bedroom. Or I remember one time driving my 1969 American Rambler, the bullet came through the driver's side windshield, missing my neck by an inch. And if that's not enough, just going to the corner store was an adventure sometimes. As walking in this neighborhood, not to be racist in any way, being a white boy, I stood out amongst the bros. With all due respect, I was outnumbered 99-1, if you know what I'm saying. Everyone carried a gun, and I was no exception. Had been since my dad gave me my first one in the 1970s. Anyway, sometime people would try to rob me. I simply showed my piece as they had theirs drawn. I know at that point, if I'm not dead already, I can talk my way out of a lot of situations. I was very comfortable being around people with guns. It could be a gangster or policeman or both. Always in control. My experience is that a person that takes their gun out and doesn't shoot right away, obviously, is negotiable. Like with anyone who has a problem, there's always a solution. Half the time, it's only a problem if you make it one. I'm good at talking myself out of pretty much anything. So no harm, no foul. We lived right on the border between the Crips and the Bloods. Their territory had really expanded in Oakland, and pretty much they were the biggest gangs that existed in the 1990s within Oaktown. Again, I took everyone's money. It didn't matter what color you were. The money was always the same, green, as was my product. If it was white and transparent, also the green was the Kush, ganj, call it what you want. But the biggest grower in California, Humboldt County, his daughter was first my bro's girlfriend, then mine. Her name was Sierra. We actually got a place together. It was after living in Oakland. We eventually got out of there. My bro went his way and direction, and I did the same. I bought my first house. Sierra and her brother moved in with me. It was in Marin County, on an abandoned Air Force base, just above San Rafael, California. Big, beautiful houses, 2 floors, 3 bedrooms, front yard, backyard, and cheap. Marin County is very expensive and worth every dollar for me. To be a homeowner was a dream come true. I also had a Shelby Cobra 1969 mint condition that I had bought at a car show. I took my friends only to see the cars. I didn't think, as well as they, that I would buy a Shelby Cobra. I couldn't walk away from it. I had to drive it home. A lot of the cars were for sale, but this one wasn't. It was just for show. I asked the owner while looking at it for the first time and falling in love at first sight. I had only seen these cars in magazines, never up front. I had to have it. So the owner told me, it's not for sale. I told him everything's for sale. It just has to be the right number. I asked him, what's your number? How much is the crazy price for your Shelby? He told me $25,000. I told him I have $20,000 cash on me right now. I'll be honest with you, I came to this show not just to look at the cars, but to buy one. If you're ready right here, right now, in this very moment, I'll hand you $20,000 and you hand me the pink slip and the keys. We will shake hands and I'll be on my way. That's what happened. The guy at the time actually explained to me he had financial difficulties, but didn't want to sell it, but needed the money. The owner of the red 1969 Shelby Cobra couldn't say no to my $20,000 in cash. It was a hell of a deal, obviously. I drove out of that car show in Silicon Valley with my friends in it. The car was a show car, 4-speed. I could do the speed limit on the freeway in first gear, chirp as I changed it into second, doing 60 miles an hour, making the wheels spin. This Cobra was like a rocket, so fast, so beautiful. Wow, life was good. A beautiful girlfriend, her bro as our roommate. It was great until one night, as many before, Dave had gone to a party. He was coming home drunk and died in the crash. This devastated everyone. I love Dave and his whole family, always in my heart. The impact it had of losing Dave affected my relationship with Sierra and the family. We all went our separate ways. As far as I was concerned, my bro continues a relationship to this day, but under different circumstances. He was living under my roof. I had failed my responsibility. There was a great loss. I, along with everyone else, could no longer live in this house. I had lost my roommate, best friend, his sister, my girlfriend. The house was empty with just me. So I gave it to my sister as a wedding present. She not knowing the story and her getting married at the time with a great guy. His dad was the chief of police of San Francisco. He, a school teacher like my sister, it was my pleasure and honor to give them the house as a wedding present. I also sold my Shelby Cobra that was parked in front of it. I got $25,000 for that real fast. I should have asked for more. I took the money and went to Sausalito. I lived on a houseboat, got a job at the little store, and the only store right on the docks, on the 1-block street from the ocean, on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge, San Francisco. On the other side, Sausalito. I had a great job close to my houseboat. It was perfect. Until one morning, I was woken up by the police while sleeping. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. I had closed the store that evening like every before, putting the money in the safe, cleaning the floors, windows, etc. Before I left, I was under arrest for the robbery of the store. I told them I worked there. They told me they knew that. The police told me that my fingerprints were on the broken windows, the cash register, and the safe. I told them, of course they are. That was my job. I explained, my fingerprints are everywhere, but I didn't break the window. I only cleaned it. The cash register and safe with my prints, obviously, because I took the money from the register and put it in the safe, like I had done so many times before, having lived there, working for almost a year. It was a matter of seconds, and I was under arrest in handcuffs for robbery. I was taken to the Marin County Correction Center in San Rafael. I was locked up in prison for a crime I didn't commit. I was innocent. Everyone says the same thing in jail. Nobody believed me. Going through the judicial system, I was appointed a public defender. I couldn't afford my own lawyer. It required, again, being handcuffed with 20 other prisoners, all of us in orange jumpsuits. We were handcuffed separately, then all together like a chain gang, escorted, awaiting in a waiting room in the prison for transportation. After a long period of time, inmates are then transported to a big bus. Looks like a school bus with bars on the windows, escorted by police cars in front and the back. Then we are driven to the courthouse. From the bus, we would walk through the back of the building, avoiding public view. All of us going down below ground level to a security area like a jail. There, the police would take off our handcuffs, put us all together in one big cell to await trial in front of the judge and jury if necessary. This would take all day. Everything takes so much time, but that's all I had along with everyone else in prison. That's all you're looking at, is how much time do I have to be behind bars. I was just another number, another case to the public defender. They don't even look at your face or care about you. You're just a job to them. The legal process requires that you go back and forth many times. After being in prison for some time, always claiming my innocence, it was brought to the attention of the judge that another robbery case before him, and this person also confessed to the robbery that I was being charged with. The judge declared me innocent and set me free. This took time as the legal process goes. Upon awaiting my release, I noticed the singer from the band Van Halen. I talked to him he was a really nice guy, and asked him why was he here. He told me that he was driving too fast, speeding, public endangerment, and driving on a suspended driver's license. He wrote a #1 hit song, Inside, all about it. I had also been arrested many times for driving with a suspended license and speeding. It doesn't matter who you are in Marin County. They're very strict about this, and the police will lock you up along with everyone else. No exceptions, zero tolerance. I was finally released from jail. I had my freedom. Going back to Sausalito, to my houseboat, I found that no longer I had a place to live. I had lost my job, and all my stuff was fortunately packed in a few boxes and sent to a neighbor's boat. The owner was a friend of my dad's. He had 10 rooms that he always rented. I asked him if he could rent me one, and he did. Thank God I had a roof over my head. This community of houseboats was located on Gate 6. Next to it was Gates 1 through 5. It was like a small town of houseboats below the Golden Gate Bridge, with dirt roads and the docks that come off them from the beach to the ocean, with all the houseboats tied up, each one having its own space. Not every boat was connected to the docks. Many were anchored in the middle of the ocean. You have to understand there's a closed-off section, very small area, of about 5 miles, where the ocean looks like a lake. The water is calm, no waves, and not much people. This was no tourist attraction at the time. It was a private and peaceful and alternative way to live inexpensively. People chose this way of life instead of living in a trailer park. It was obviously the complete opposite, but in the 1990s, this was a cheap way to live in Marin County because this place was getting more Hollywood by the minute. It was just as expensive. The price of living here is very high. It takes a lot of money to live in California. I had lived on this boat renting a room for only 1 month. The whole community of boat people really angry with me for robbing the store. I proclaimed my innocence and told everyone that I didn't do it. Nobody believed me and were even madder at me because I had turned up the heat with the police. They were looking for the person who had really robbed the store. Searching boat to boat through gates 1 through 6. Many people were arrested for other things, and none of this would have happened if I wasn't arrested for robbing the store to begin with. Before this unfortunate incident, the police always left everybody alone. But because of the public protest from the homeowners, there was pressure on the police. People that had houses on the street close to the boats didn't like us at all. There was a lot of animosity between people that lived on land and water. It would be like homeowners in nice houses in front of a trailer park. People are looked at like trailer trash. We were looked at the same way. We had no respect living on a boat. All of us poor, but trying to do the best we could with what little money we had. Like anywhere, you have rich, middle class, and poor. The people put so much pressure on the owner of the boat and me that it was impossible for me to continue to live there. I was no longer welcome in Sausalito and had to go.
So our boys left homeless at the end of this one, and I've already heard the next recording. I'm not sure, from what I've heard, I'm not sure there's any more tapes coming. I think we got a few more weeks of this, and that'll be it. The efforts to find Sean are picking up. I think you heard the recording last week from an old neighbor who says he's still in contact with him. I put some feelers out. We'll see if we can get into contact, maybe get him on. But I've got another former friend of Sean, the Gringo Locos, lined up, I think, and to talk about a tough moment in Sean's life when I knew him about 10 years ago. So we'll see if I can get that recorded and shared with you next week, along with what is a darker chapter in the Gringo Loco true story. All right. Thanks again for listening. Subscribe and share with your friends, please. Thanks for listening to True Story, a podcast by Gringo Loco. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page at Sean Balin Gringo Loco Podcast and follow us on Instagram at Gringo Loco Pod. Catch our next episode 1 week from today.